Did you know that the global fine art market is growing by $30 billion a year? I didn't know that either, but now that I am in the art world and have been in the art world for quite a while, I'm learning a lot of crazy facts about that, and I'm also learning that there's room for me at the top, which is exciting to say the least. So I'm glad you're here with me today. If you don't know me, my name is Tasha, and I am a professional artist along with a crafter and all those things. I have been doing art for my entire life. My dad's an artist, my mom's an artist. They never did it professionally, unfortunately, but I told them that I'm gonna break that mold and I am going to inspire both of them and show them just how great I can be in this world, and here I am doing it. So thank you, welcome to my channel. If you like content like this, please make sure to like this video and then also subscribe to my channel for more art stuff. I'm also a homeschool mom with a kiddo who has ADHD. She got it from me, and dyslexia, and so I post content along those lines as well. So I'm happy that you're here. Let's get into it. So before we get into it, I also want to ask you guys what your favorite art supplies are, because I know that we all have different preferences because everybody has a different style. So comment below what your favorite art supplies are and what has worked for you and been tried and true throughout your journey as an artist, or tell me something cool that you just found that you didn't know existed before that maybe elevated how you are able to create what you create. Walking into an art supply store can be extremely overwhelming. So whether you're just getting started, whether you just have decision fatigue, or whether you just don't even know like what all the options are, I'm here to help you with that. I don't believe in buying expensive art supplies just because they're expensive. I don't believe that the dollar amount equals quality. I use what I use because I have used it for a while and it's tried and true for me, and I've also, like I said, looked at reviews, taken art classes, and learned from other professional artists. So the first thing that I want to talk about is my scale tool, and this is one, you're not going to find this specific one, I will say. I made this one because like I said, I'm a crafty family. Like, I have a wood shop on the property I live on, so I just went out and found a scrap piece of wood and I made one myself. This is imperative if you are trying to do any kind of realism. So if you are, you know, if you do like alla prima, you know, sketching, painting, whatever it is, if you're doing stuff from a from even a photo, you can do it from a photo on your iPad, or you can do a you can, you know, set a few things out on your counter if you're going to do something like that, if you're practicing dimension, shadowing, and scale and value and all those things. This is 100% worth it. Like, this is what I use more than anything else to make sure that the things that I paint come out looking like this and not like a quirky little weird, do you know what kind of animal that is. This is amazing, and like I said, they're relatively inexpensive, and they're well worth it. So I would get this if you are working on trying to be realistic in any sense of the matter, trying to do you know, real life subjects, whether it's human faces, whether it is an apple, whether it is animals. This is my #1 favorite tool. Next, I'm gonna go over my favorite brushes real quick. So #1 is the fan brush, because I can get a lot of texture with the fan brush, and I can get a lot of, like, I can scumble it a little bit, and I can just add a lot of texture with a fan brush, and you'd be surprised at how much like natural elements you can get with a fan brush too. You can do moss with this, grass, fur, let's see what else. You could do seaweed with it. You can add texture to rocks. You can put paint on it and flick it for like an ocean scene. It's extremely versatile. If you don't have a fan brush, you should get one. And then the next, I literally grabbed my 4 favorite brushes, and they're all Filberts. Filbert brushes are my favorite. So Filbert brushes are a little bit rounded on the end. These are excellent. I do a lot of animals, as you can see behind me, and florals, as you can see behind me, and I use Filberts for most of it. I use some square brushes for that, but the Filberts are great because they allow you to get those soft lines and not having a harsh edge on anything. And they're really good if you are doing portraits as well, because they're great at being able to do, like, get all your angles and everything like that with, you know, with that soft edge on them. Also, if you do birds, these are 100% the best brushes to use for feathers, because this literally looks exactly like the end of a feather, and all you have to do is go swoop and you have a feather, and it is wonderful. And you have to make the swoop noise for sure. So those are my favorite brushes. 10 out of 10. My next favorite item is water-soluble graphite crayons. And these guys I actually just discovered a few months ago because I took an art class from the Milan Art Institute, and they were using these, and I was like, I have never heard of that before. That's so cool. And so they showed me how to use them, and it's really awesome because I am anti-charcoal. I think it's a great medium, and there's so many people that are really wonderful at charcoal. It is like a sensory issue for me. It's dry in my hand. It gets everywhere. It not only gets everywhere, but it's black and it gets everywhere. So it gets all over my clothes, all over the back of my hands. There's black dust all over the place, and it stresses me out a lot. That being said, I love these guys because I can get my quick sketches. Like I said, when I'm using my scale tool, I can get my quick sketches, and that's how I did this, is I used my scale tool and then I sketched really quickly with one of these guys, and you can either use a spray bottle or get a little bit of water on your finger or even a brush, and it actually acts like almost a watercolor, and it dissipates. You can get some drips with it and everything like that. You can move it around and you can do some shadowing and everything with them as well. And so these guys are great. They come in, I believe these were the only 3 that I found at Blick, the 3 hardness, it's a hardness scale, but I've got 2B, 6B, and 9B, and I've used 6B more than anything just because it's middle of the road and that's what I tend to use. So these guys are 10 out of 10. I think they're only a couple bucks a piece. They're like $2 a piece or something, so very, very reasonable. Next, let's see, what do we got? I'm gonna go with the hard molding paste. Hard molding paste from Golden. This stuff is absolutely fantastic. So I prep my canvases with this before I paint on them, and I don't do it with all my canvases, but if I have the time and the energy, I put this on it first, and it only takes, I let it dry overnight, but realistically if it's a thin layer, it'll take only a couple hours to dry. It's a great base layer, and then you don't get the canvas texture behind what you are painting. It creates a much smoother texture, and it actually hangs onto the colors of your paint quite a bit better too. So the pigment and saturation just looks better, and in turn then you're using less paint, and everybody knows paint can be expensive. So this stuff is wonderful. I would recommend using it 1000%, and you just use a like a rib tool to scrape it on there, and it's great. It's awesome stuff. Again, pretty inexpensive. Next is Mod Podge. I use this for adding collages and different kind of paper elements to add some texture and interest into some of my backgrounds. This stuff is awesome. It's great to have on hand for pretty much any craft that you do. I think this is more of a household item than just an arts and crafts item. Next is alcohol inks. I love alcohol inks, and I get the little Piñata ones. These are pretty inexpensive. I think there's like a kit for like 20 bucks or something, of several different colors, and this is what I use a lot for my backgrounds. If you don't know, alcohol ink mixes with, like, if you have wet acrylic paint and you drip alcohol ink on it, it bleeds a little bit, and it's really cool, and then you can make it drip. You can also do, like, I do some of the gold and everything, and you can't really see up here, but I have some gold alcohol ink drips there because they have a lot of pretty metallics as well, and they are just beautiful. It's awesome to add texture and to add interest. I use the pearl one too, and then there's some like pearlescent elements sometimes in your background too, so it's really great because, like I said, they come in several different colors, and when they interact like that with the acrylic, it looks really cool, and it adds another element of, oh look, there's another thing to look at to your painting, because the idea of creating paintings is to have people, your eyes go to different places. Your audience is going to be like, oh, that's really pretty. Oh my gosh, I didn't notice there's that over there. Look at that. Oh, that's cool. And to have it be interesting to look at, right? So that's what I try to do, is I try to add a lot of interest into my paintings, and this is an element that is relatively easy to use, like very simple to use, inexpensive, and it creates that for me. I don't have to work really hard to get extra elements when I'm using the alcohol ink. My markers fell. Hang on, that's next. Speaking of alcohol, isopropyl alcohol as well does the same thing. So if you don't want to do any colors, any extra colors or anything in your background, but you want a really cool, like, bleeding you know, look and like little cool spots and everything like that, and almost like, you know, sporadic leopard print, just use isopropyl alcohol and drip some on your wet acrylic paint and it looks really amazing. It's great. Now onto the markers that yelled at us. Okay, Posca markers. Wait, yes, Posca markers. I will say Posca for some reason. These guys are amazing. If you don't have Posca markers in your arsenal of art stuff, these guys are a little bit more on the spendy side for art supplies. I don't remember exactly how much a pack is, but I think it's between like 20 and 30 bucks. But they last for a really long time. They're highly pigmented, and so you're not gonna have, I mean, they're acrylic markers, so there's really, really high rates of pigment. And you're not gonna have any like weird bleeding or anything like that. They're smooth, they're bright, there's so many things you can do. So I actually use these in my background, and then also on some of the paintings like the one behind me here, I use them as one of my last steps as well, to do some like cool little scribbles around my flowers and things like that, just to like add a little bit of extra pop. So these guys are great. I love the multicolor packs because I'm not always good at picking out like cohesive colors, and so I like that they do this because I'm like, oh yeah, I like that set there. And the reason I actually bought this one here is so that I could do a fox. Like I saw this color and I was like, oh, I want to do a fox with that, and there he is. So those guys are wonderful. And let's see, okay, we got two more, actually three more, excuse me, three more. We'll go through them pretty quick. So golden, make sure this is tight, golden high flow acrylics. If you've never used these, I think they're more along the lines for people who do like the pouring art and spinning and things like that, but these are amazing. Like, it's hard to explain, but if you water down acrylic paint to get drips and things like that, you're gonna have watered down paint. These guys are not watered down. The pigment is extremely rich, and you already have like a very thin, drippy texture essentially for this, or medium, excuse me. And so I absolutely love these. I also love them because they come in such bright, beautiful colors. And so I have a lot of really, really bright ones. And then I also got the gold and the silver from them, and so I did use the gold in this painting as well. Just kind of on the bottom you can see like a couple little streaks there, but for the most part, like this pink is that like blotch of pink right there. This yellow is that really bright yellow that's popping out. So I use these a lot for that background, for that painting, and I use them a lot in the backgrounds because they just pop, and they're so beautiful and so bright and so like, I don't know, just even when I do my backgrounds, I'm like, oh, I'm scared to paint on that because I love the background so much when I use these, because it's so fun and bright and gorgeous. So whether you are doing anything that's like realist, you know, realism, or if you're doing something that's abstract, these are like 10 out of 10. I would get these before I would get like the alcohol inks, honestly. Like if you're working on a little bit of a tighter budget, these are going to be like number one. They're going to be a way to pop your paintings on top of anything else that I'm showing you today. So those guys are awesome. Next, a spray bottle. You can get these at the Dollar Tree. I'm not gonna link one of these because you can definitely get these at the Dollar Tree, or you probably have one around your house, especially if you're a girl mom. We have like 3 of these for hair, right? So these guys are like, I use this every single time I paint with acrylics. I always wet my background before I do, you know, before I paint on it at all, before I do my background, anything like that, because I like really drippy, flowy, fun, you know, ability to like make soft edges and things like that. I like backgrounds like that, and I like doing a little bit of the abstract, whimsical. These guys also, if you do acrylics, or if you're doing a background and something's like a little bit too dark and you're like, oh, I want that to lighten up a little bit, spray a little bit of water on it, and then it'll dissipate and move down the canvas. So those guys are great to have. Like I said, I have one at my art station, then we have like 3 more around the house for hair. But that's gonna be, you know, also like at one of the top ones at the top of the list. And then the last thing that I want to talk to you guys is about glazing. So when you are doing, or varnishing, not glazing, excuse me, when you are finishing up your painting, you want to seal it with something. You don't want to have just your paints being exposed to, you know, to wind, to sun, to, you know, if you walk outside with it, you don't want it to get rained on or anything. I live in Washington, so I have to be really careful about everything I walk outside. So Gamblin makes Gamvar, and they make a matte, a satin, and a gloss. I have the satin and the gloss. I don't do matte finishes on my paintings. I haven't painted anything yet where I'm like, oh, that'd be cool with a matte finish. I like the gloss when I am doing metallic elements because it really makes them pop. And then the satin I do if I don't do metal elements, which it would be fine on metal elements, but it just doesn't make them pop quite as much as the gloss does. And so those are the two that I get as well. Again, they're relatively inexpensive because you, I think, what's this size bottle, like a 4? Yeah, so like this size bottle I think is like $10, but this is gonna gloss several paintings for me. A little bit goes a really, really long way. So those are my absolute favorite, and they dry fairly quickly too, which I enjoy because I'm definitely like a fast-paced person and I like to move on to the next thing, and I need my easel to be free when I want my easel to be free. So so those are like my favorite, my absolute favorite varnishes that I've found on the market. So that being said, all of the things I've shown you today, I'd love to know your opinions. I'd love to know what works for you, what your favorite paintbrushes are, and what your favorite art supplies are that you have. Going into 2025, I am going to use all of the things that I showed you very heavily, and you're going to see a lot more stuff like this from me as I continue to elevate my art career. So thank you guys so much for being here. Again, I truly, truly appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next video.